I'll stop recording for the moment.
All is well. So welcome to Lewisham Unity on Sunday, the 30th of October, 2022. To those of you in the meeting house there and to those of us online, welcome to a place where we gather to recharge, rest, and renew between one week and another, and where we commit to shaping the future that we want to make, and where all of you, whoever you love, wherever you come from, and whatever you're searching for, are welcome here. I will now light chalice and the candle for the children. The first words were not credited. Multitasking on a bed because the cat is so rampageous that I have to shut myself in the bedroom. Anyway, here we go. We are part of a great cycle of being, falling and rising, part of a whole. And from our chalice, I light the candle for the children with these words from Brian Boothby, who is an artist, a writer, and a craftsman. I am tomorrow's ancestors and the future of yesterday, and what I am in the here and now goes rippling out always, goes rippling out always. There they are. So welcome to this service entitled Samhain and Days of the Dead. We'll be welcoming in the season of the dark that comes to us in the Northern Hemisphere. We'll be bringing in the light, and we'll be honoring the dead as we acknowledge some of the different ways that this is done around the world, but also we'll spend some time reflecting on how we might choose to remember or be remembered. First, let's arrive together with our tradition of 3 settling breaths that help us transition into a deeper awareness, a place of more finely tuned presence, if you like, to ourselves and to the energy around us. And Julio, would you please do that for us? Thank you.
Sure thing. Everyone take your positions of rest, strength, power, and connect yourself to the ultimate in this moment. And slowly get your first breath in you. Hold it for a second and then exhale slowly. Then take your next deep breath in, breathe in the peace and love. And slowly breathe out all your worries and your woes, little by little. And take your last deep breath in and breathe in the community we find ourselves in today. Hold it again and exhale slowly. And let this be whatever you need to exhale to bring yourself into this space. Blessed be.
Thank you. So as some of you will know, so I'm rustling my papers. It's always a thing online when you lead, whether you read it from the screen or whether you have a piece of paper. And I want to be able to see everybody. So I'm rustling my papers. So some of you know, Samhain means summer's end in Gaelic, and that's where we are. We're in that natural transition between the lighter days and the darker days. And we meddled a bit as humans with the putting back of the clocks as well. And for those of you who weren't aware, the theme at Lewisham Unity for autumn has been change and transition. And this is very much a time of celebration of that. And then as we move into winter, and our theme for winter is embracing the dark and the light, which again, it all kind of comes together in this service in a way. Traditionally tomorrow, the 31st of October, is the chosen day to mark the start of the season of darkness. And also literally, technically, it's a new year. And was celebrated as the new year in former times, because if you think about life on Earth, not thinking about the oceans, but life above sea level, it begins in the dark, doesn't it? Whether that's in the womb or the egg or below the ground. And it spends time there preparing to meet the light when it has capacity to do so. Ideally, if we were celebrating Samhain together, we would gather tomorrow at dusk and we would build a massive bonfire. And that would be not only to keep us warm and in former times to keep the wild animals away, keep us safe, but also symbolically that we are holding the light and we're generating light ourselves to get us through this dark and potentially difficult time. Well, it was difficult, no doubt about it. So no bonfire for us today. We're going to do it in a much smaller and more simple way. And to this end, you've been invited to bring some or all of the following. So I've got them here, but we're not going to be using them all. But we've got, in no particular order, well, we've got autumn leaves, we've got candle, water, salt. And I wasn't able to get a nut, so I've got some pumpkin seeds. And what I like about this idea of rituals is that these are really, and what rituals are all about actually in some sense, is that these are things that are readily available to us. So instead of burning autumn leaves and wood in a bonfire to light the dark, we're going to use leaves as a symbolic source of light through the experience of the lived experience, which we're going to project into, of walking on a fine autumn day and appreciating that beauty and using our senses and using our awareness to feel as fully as possible what that's like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk us through, and I hope that you can get an experience in the meeting house of the leaves that I'm going to share. So can you all see that? You can't see it. In the meeting house,
Yeah, we can now. We can see that leaves. Yeah.
Okay, lovely, thank you. And I'm going to put it on slideshow so it will get bigger as well. So it's up to you whether you want to keep looking at the leaves or whether at a certain point you want to go inwards and close your eyes. So it's kind of like an open closed guided meditation. Excuse me. So imagining at some point, I imagine that we've all been on an autumnal walk and we've all seen the beauty of nature in this country in the autumn. The colours, the crunch of the leaves beneath our feet. Seeing how when they first fall, they're pristine, but as time goes on, they start to get mud on them and they start to decay. And then on those sunny autumn days, how the light shines through the leaves and it's glorious, absolutely glorious. The awe that we can feel for creation. Looking up through the trees when we can see that bright blue sky on some days, illuminating the leaves, and often hear the wind rustling. And if we're looking up into those rustling trees, it's almost as if the leaves are dancing. And if we choose to pick up a leaf and we look closely, the way that it's formed this intricate network of veins, the colours, how the shading changes with time. It's miraculous. And when it's been raining, the experience of seeing the droplets of water on the leaves, maybe seeing ourselves reflected in those droplets of water. I'm now going to be silent and just let the next slides roll on so that we have that space to feel into what it's like to be in that environment. That's our final slide there. The sun low in the sky, shining through, illuminating the leaves, and the glory of nature and creation. Something that we can carry in our hearts and in our minds during the darkness of winter, with a reminder that those leaves will, once they've fallen to the ground and the trees are bare, those leaves will come again in spring. This time of year, when nature is dying back and the days are shorter, is also in many cultures a time to remember the dead. The following poem, set to music by Mary Elizabeth Fry, is an elegy sometimes called I Am, due to its repetition of the biblical phrase, I am. And I imagined her writing this as she went for a long walk in nature, just like the one we were evoking in an embodied way, and how she would have been at once struck by the awesome beauty around her, while also thinking about a dear departed loved one who seems to her to feel present in everything. And there's something about tuning into that beauty of nature that makes it, this miracle, if you like, seem truly possible, and depending on your beliefs as well. So as with our communing with the leaves just now, I invite you to see how keenly you can project yourself into the images as you listen to the words of the poem. Thank you, Julio. Thank you, Julio. And I wish that I had said before we played that I say weep at the grave as well. I say all of it, you know, whatever it is that we need at that particular time in our journey of bereavement with our grief. So yeah, I wish I'd said that beforehand. So that leads us into the Day of the Dead, the idea of the Day of the Dead, which is a tradition now known across the world that originates from the Aztecs in Central and Southern America, became mixed with the Catholicism of the colonizing Spaniards, and is best known in Mexico. And because, I'm just going to fold my piece of paper so I don't have to look down so much, excuse me. And because this month, our cultural focus in the UK and the States has been honouring Black history, we remember today not only Samhain, the traditional of indigenous pre-Christian Celtic people of this land, but also traditions of other peoples whose land was invaded and whose cultural traditions were stamped out, their ancestors dishonoured. We also remember those who were forcibly and horrifically taken from their motherland in slavery, and whose traditions the oppressors tried to obliterate. And let us take a minute's silence to respect and to remember them. Thank you. Now, I say the following with an acute awareness of the depth and the sensitivity and the enormous wealth of information on this subject, and please forgive my generalization. When I said that traditions were stamped out, this is tragically true in the sense that daily lived cultures were systematically and literally beaten out in the Americas and the Caribbean. However, at the same time, there were traditions that went underground and were courageously and cleverly hidden under cover of the traditions imposed by the oppressors. So, and when I say tradition, I'm talking about Christianity, for all its appalling sins, which unfortunately is where Unitarianism stems from. So I need to say that. The elements of the religions that had existed, those of the Aztec, Mayan, Olmec people, to name but a few, were, as I said, subtly introduced into the imposed rituals. Gods were renamed as saints, but those in the know knew who they were really worshipping. The religions that came with the enslaved people from Africa have lived on through new religions. For example, Wudun from the kingdom of Dahomey was transformed into new versions in Haiti, and also in Cuba with Santeria, and in Brazil with Candomblé. Sorry, where is my... okay, I found my place. And just a note to say that unfortunately, and I found this with my search on the internet, but we know this, that these newer, if you like, religions have been distorted and into something sinister. And, you know, this has been a political drive for centuries. And there's still so much work to do to repair this misrepresentation. But as we remember Black History this month, it's also to, and even maybe more so as well, to acknowledge the enormous contribution of the people of Africa and Caribbean descent and other people of color to the history of this country and every country where it's appropriate, from the cultural influences. And again, I just feel I'm just skimming so superficially here, but from the cultural influences where there's a difficult history of appropriation and underrepresentation, to creating and maintaining the infrastructures of countries. And also, though, dating back hundreds of years, the Black history that was never recorded because British people, and in America as well, didn't respect or care. And governments were actively denying and suppressing. So thanks be to God. Thanks be that this is changing, and now faster than before. May we have the courage and the dedication to continue making the long overdue reparations and changes. So again, we're going to have another few moments of remembrance. This time, Julio is going to put on some music. It's from a YouTube channel called Haitian Voodoo Songs. And there are no credits, unfortunately, on this channel. There are no credits or information that I could share here. But this is some music that would obviously be played in a gathering. So thank you, Julio. We'll just have a minute or so. Thank you, Julio. So as I said at the beginning, we're going to touch on some of these traditions around the world of ways people remember their dead. And with an enormous gratitude of the fact that we can share in these now. And we've got 4 very short extracts from clips, 2 from Mexico and 2 from Ghana. And I tried to find clips, excuse me, that had been filmed by people partaking themselves. And so it was their choice that they wanted to upload this to YouTube and share it with people. So I'll just say briefly what it is that is coming up. We've got from Oaxaca in Mexico, we've got a small town celebration of Day of the Dead. And then we've got this is a cultural display, but it's of Aztec traditional dancing from the Day of the Dead. And then we have 2 clips from funerals. One is from the Bimoba in northeastern Ghana, and the other is a very intimate, like in somebody's, what do we say, la cour, will, in French, what do you say, just like in the yard of a funeral from Yarigu, also Ghanaian, as I said. So thank you for sharing these, Julio. And Julio's doing a lot of editing here to, yeah. But, I'm sorry, just before you do that, what I really would like us to focus on, it's this idea of how these traditions are more embodied in the way that they experience together and in their own bodies. So dancing and singing together, and just what that does, if you like, for the human spirit when we are being with our experience of death and when we're sharing that together. And so again, if you can, and part of what I was saying earlier to Julio is part of the idea of these rituals is that the same music, it goes on for a long time. It's the same thing. And what does that mean when you settle into that and you open up to that and you go with the flow of that? So if it feels comfortable and appropriate for you now as you're watching this, even though they're very small clips, to just begin to see what that's like. Like imagine that this was the funeral of a friend of yours or a friend of the family, and that you're there, you're actually there, participating with respect in the ceremony and celebration. Thank you, Julio. Thank you, Julio. So this idea of evolving traditions, we've touched on those traditions that grew up in the Caribbean and in Latin America. And a video that I haven't shown you today, but in Ghana, there is a dance troupe, a professional dance troupe, who dance with the coffin, and they do all these choreographies, dancing with the coffin, and special outfits, and yeah, it's a real show. It's fantastic, and that's something that they evolved into a modern day version, possibly, I don't know, but of a traditional thing. But anyway, this idea of evolving traditions, I'd like it to turn it towards ourselves now. Living in this country and coming to a forward-thinking Unitarian space, we have the opportunity and the privilege to create our own vision of honoring our dead, both individually and maybe also as a community, including how we would like to be remembered ourselves, thinking into the future. There actually is a whole movement now of becoming more responsible around planning for our death well in advance, you know, to save a lot of grief for those who we leave behind, but also to take some kind of have some creative empowerment around who we feel we are in the world and how we want to go and how we want to be remembered. This idea of doing a good death. And so just looking at my notes, excuse me. Yeah, I thought that it would be nice to take a little bit of time to reflect together. I just want to check in though, because it's 5 to 12. This was always going to be a slightly generous hour, but are people okay if we go until 1:15? Because we had the start at the beginning, we got delayed. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Cool. So yeah, I thought it would be nice if we just had a little time to chat. So maybe we could just have those of us who are online and then those of you in, no, let's do it. 2 breakout rooms, please, Julio. 2 breakout rooms. And then, so welcome back.
Oh,
I hope that was a rich conversation that you had. I am very aware of the time, and I'm wondering whether, rather than having that private moment of reflection that I said we would have before we went into groups, maybe we just say that that's something that we can do with more spaciousness in our own time. And I really encourage it if it feels good to you. And something that came up in the conversation with Joelle that I actually wanted to mention as a kind of a tying in and a rounding up is the funeral of my beloved friend Fee, who died earlier this year, was very much a communal affair. And this was because she was kind of like an anchor person in a large community. And it was very beautiful. We processed and we sang together and we put things of remembrance on her grave. And it was just such a wonderful thing. But also that this isn't always something that is possible in our much more disjointed and particularly urban life. And so just you know, wanting to, this is where the seed comes in. So if you have a seed, you can take it, and if you don't, you can just imagine it. Imagine this tiny little thing that could grow into a plant, and whether you're literally placing it in the palm of your hand and feeling the lightness of it in your hand and closing your hand, or whether you're imagining that in your mind's eye or feeling it in your somatic being, you're bringing darkness by closing your hand over this seed. And in a moment of intention, what might you bring to this idea of remembering the dead for yourself, for your family, for your community, anything that comes to mind, holding it to your heart, if you like, closing your eyes and imbuing the love that you have in your heart and the power of your mind into this seed for it to grow in time. So And these things, one of the things I like about rituals like that, and this is a traditional Samhain time ritual, is that it can take under a minute, literally, to do that, to think of that, and yet it is powerful as well. And I just want to show you this book, which is a very lovely book by Glennie Kindred, which I always refer to for the Wheel of the Year celebrations, the Earth Cycle of Celebration, it's called. And a lovely coincidence was that the words that I shared at the beginning about rippling out and us being the ancestors of the future. It's her husband who wrote those words. I just discovered that. So I think the last thing, as we're kind of coming to an end today, the last thing that I wanted to say was to note that all around the world, we've got one more clip, haven't we? We've got that one more clip.
Yeah.
Yes.
We could have that as a closing bit, or if you want, or we could play it now.
Yeah. So this comes with a trigger warning. What I wanted to say is that all around the world, there are traditions that honor the dead in communal and personal ways that in this culture, we've kind of like English culture, we've lost. And in the past, people, well, I mean, okay, got to be careful. Like if you're Irish living in London, you maybe still have the wake where the body is there for all to see, and other cultures as well. But what I wanted to say was that in general, in the past, we had a more intimate, direct, visceral relationship with the bodies of our dearly departed. And the next video is a culture in Indonesia where they really, really do that. Now, for some people, it might seem a lot. So I just want to say that there are images of people who've been dead for years. And I found it really beautiful and really touching. And to put it in context, it's a BBC report. And so it has got a bit of a kind of like a reporting vibe to it. It's not necessarily exactly what I would have wanted, but it's very interesting. And as I said, it opens up this whole topic even further, if you like. Thank you, Julio.
The physical relationship between the dead and the living continues long after death, even after burials. Once every couple of years, families bring the coffins of long-departed relatives out of their graves and open them up for a big family reunion. The ritual is called matnen, or cleansing of the corpse.
From the sociological perspective, that's a kind of keeping social interaction between those who are still alive and those already died.
The coffin is finally open. This is Maria Solo, and she's covered in her most treasured belongings. Thank you. They want me to show what she looked like before and what she looks like now. She died 3 years ago and got buried 2 years ago. They kept her in the house for 1 year.
Punya orang tua sudah dilaksanakan sekarang sangat lega karena sudah dilaksanakan. Besok dilihat itu mukanya orang tua, Saya sangat menyayangi sama saya, tidak pernah marah-marah sama saya. Jadi saya itu saja anunya sama orang tua ya.
Apa namanya, kayak kita maunya kalau kita sebagai manusia pasti dibilang coba orang tua saya masih hidup seperti halnya yang saya alami. Kalau kita perantau pasti kalau macam macam anak mantu dibilang panggil anak.
How do you think Manene helps you deal with the grief?
Ya bisa juga dikatakan ekspresi kesedihan, macam kita orang perantau begitu bisa kayak meringankan beban yang kita pikul. Orang tua kita kalau meninggal pasti kita ingin mau lihat.
All of this is so different to how I dealt with my father's death, or so I thought.
What did you do to your fathers?
We buried him.
Buried him, yeah? And then until now?
I
You
visit his grave
his
sometimes.
grave sometimes. You did actually Manene. In different way.
How?
Yeah. Because you visit the grave of your father because you still remember him as your father. And you still have an emotional relationship with him. Your love to your father, never ending. Right? And that's the principle of Manene.
So perhaps the principles behind the rituals here are not very different from most other cultures. Remembering our dead is something most of us try to do, but Torajans don't leave that to chance, and for them, there certainly appears to be great comfort from the rituals around death.
Thank you, Julio. Well, I know that was strong, but it felt like it was a very beautiful thing to share, and also in terms of honoring the way that other cultures and their wisdom. And I also want to share, kind of in the spirit of, in a way, what the intention of this service has been. I want to share that 2 days ago, it was the 3rd anniversary of my mother's passing. And I just wanted to briefly share what we did. We held a ritual that we created from simple things that we had, and that drew a little bit on the mixed heritage of my family. And unfortunately, pretty much everybody except Essie and Liz will know, but my husband is from Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, and he's actually there at the moment, so he couldn't be here for the ritual, but we did speak, of course. And so we had fire, we had candles, we made a libation to the ancestors, and we used some vermouth, which was my mother's favorite aperitif for that. And we had photo of her there, and we sang a song that had been important in our family since my dad died. And then we also planted some spring bulbs underneath the tree at the bottom of our garden, where all our cats are buried. And that was a nod to my friend who had the beautiful communal ceremony that I mentioned. Now, we didn't dance, and we sang really quietly, and I didn't take my harmonium out. And that was because we're overlooked by neighbors, and because, we're not comfortable with that. And my wish is that hopefully we can get to a place where we could have felt comfortable doing that. So we are on 16 minutes past the hour. We were going to bring it all full circle back to the earth, but also back to the idea of that as a community, we've come closest to sharing song and dance together, which is through Joelle, thank you so much for bringing Dances of Universal Peace to us. And I would very much like for us to still sing E Malama, which is something that has become a bit of a favorite in our community. But I do just want to check in if people need to go at this point. It will probably take us another 5 minutes or so. Do you think, Joelle?
That's fine. The words are on the chat. So if you open your chat, you'll see the words.
See the chat, obviously. So
no, the chat for you is going to be a little bit tricky. But maybe one or two of you know it. And as what Tatiana was saying earlier, it's like those songs repeat themselves anyway. So basically the words are Emalama eka e yao, Emalama eka e yao. So we repeat it. Emalama pono eka e yao for the last one. And this comes from Hawaii, okay? So Hawaii, the indigenous sort of people of Hawaii, Emalama is about someone who takes care, who does the right thing. So Emalama ekaeyo can be translated as it's right, it's our duty to take care of the land. And Pono, there's a sense of urgency and carefulness, but carefulness in urgency. So it's right to be taking care of the land and of our community. Emalama has the sense of light as well. So light as a soul. So it comes back to the Day of the Dead and what Tatiana has been talking about. So so it's really briefly. So, you know, the chat will stay on and you can have a better look once we finish. But I'm really aware of the time. So Tatiana is going to do the movements. The movements are Emalama eka yao, Emalama eka yao, Emalama pono, we hold the earth and we give this energy back to the earth. We do that twice. Hey, well, we do hey before and repeat. Hey is not a hey of victory. It's a hey of intention. So it is our intention to do the right thing, hey. And then earth, what's for, yes, earth and sky, sea and stone. And what I would like you to do is to imagine that we're all holding hands for the next sentence, which is hold this land in sacredness. Okay, so we're caressing the earth, or the earth. We're holding the earth. We're setting the intention. Earth is down, so the sky is up. It's really strange to do it on the screen. Sea, the waves, and stone. Okay, and we hold hands together. Emalama ekayo, emalama ekayo, emalama pono ekayo. Earth
Thank you, Joao. Thank you very much. And so, acknowledging that we haven't done our candles of hope, joy, hope, and concern. Although, Anne, were you? You've got your chalices there. So we've got double chalices, so we can blow them out now. And I apologize for anybody who misses the shared candles. Thank you, everybody, for being here today, for opening your hearts and minds.
And thank you, Tatiana, for a lovely service. It was, despite the technical difficulties, it was really, really moving, and it was just nice, lovely to see all those different traditions. We were all talking about that, and I think, yeah, we'll have a lot of food for thought for this really important weekend in the calendar in so many cultures around the world. And just from a notices point of view, next Saturday, if anybody's around, we're going to open up. It's just a trial. We're going to open up the meeting house, have a coffee kind of thing. We'll put out the table sale items that we've been kind of still lugging around. So the meeting house is going to be open from 11 to 2. If anybody wants to stop by, help out, bring some cakes or something. And we'll just see. We had a lot of stop-ins at our last table sale, and if we had had tea and coffee, people would have just stayed and chatted. So that was sort of the inspiration for this. And then next Sunday is our community-led service, and as it's National Poetry Day, I believe is the.
Well, it was
last month.
in true Lewisham Community style. We're celebrating a month
later. Okay,
all right. Retrospective. It was the 6th of October, wasn't it, Lynn?
Did that happen? Okay. Anyway, it will be a poetry service anyway. And so again, if anybody would like to bring poems, I want to get out. I'll try to be here because I think it's nice to have the meeting house open if we can, but don't feel obligated and feel free to join online as well.
And we have our new winter theme of embracing the light and the dark.
Right. And as yes, Julia, I think it's just put up the if anybody wants to do their passing of the plate, and we'll do a passing of the plate here during coffee hour. But it's been just so nice to see you all online.
Have a lovely Sunday. I don't know if anyone wants to stay online. I'm happy to hang out for a few minutes, but
goodbye from here.
Bye, everybody.
It's encouraging, I think, if there were as many people at Unity House as we were online. So I think that's
yeah, it's starting to rebalance, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you, Lindsay, for your message.
Mm.
To see you.
Yes. I need to go now because I've got deadlines. So have a lovely day, everybody. Beautiful to see you. Thank you.
Bye, Lindsay.
Bye.
Bye.
Lovely to see you.
Bye-bye.
And thank you so much, Julia. I didn't say it within the whole group, but yeah, thank you so much for your support before and after.